welcome to Existential Hyperfixation. Today we are working on painting the Angron model that I customized a while back. But here's the thing. I'm a couple months into doing this YouTube thing now and making these videos, and I have had a bit of change in my personal life recently, and it's caused me to do a little bit of self-reflection. And so one of the things I've been thinking about is this channel specifically, and how when I first started it, and the reason that I called it Existential Hyperfixation was because my idea and thought process was that I would share with you the things that I was making, and also share with you the thoughts and stories and randomness that's just a part of my life. And I haven't really done any of the actual sharing and the randomness and the thoughts. I've just been showing you the projects I've been making and talking through my process. So this video is going to be posted twice, and the version you're watching right now is going to be the version where I talk about what I'm doing, and the other version that'll be posted at the same time, that will be subtitled, or that'll be titled the Existential version. Obviously this is the Hyperfixation version. Will be some stories and just some other thoughts, stream of consciousness, all sorts of things. So we're going to see how this does this week, and see how these two videos do. So as far as what this is, so I went through and at the very start of the video, I was blocking out, I did some priming, and then I blocked out the colors. You can see it's primarily orange and a dark gray on the wings, and then I blocked in some, I think it was an ivory, and just blocked out where those colors were going to go. So on the wings, you see here on the top right, this project was actually part of a painting challenge, a monthly painting challenge for the Monument Hobbies Discord. And they do this every month, and they have a theme every month. And this month's theme was reference photos and using references for creating your paint scheme. And so I was just randomly looking at, random images, and stumbled across that image of that bat that'll pop up here again in just a little bit. But I really liked the color scheme, and I thought it fit really well. I didn't want to paint Angron, my version of Angron, the same red and dark red and even darker red that just seems to be the standard. And so I wanted to, zhuzh it up a little bit, if you will. So you can see here, this is essentially the end of my first attempt on these wings, and it just didn't come out right. So I did it a second attempt, and this comes out significantly better. And it actually will end up being the final version. So I went through and actually repainted over the inside and the outside of the wings in just white paint. I think I used the Pro Acryl heavy white. I don't know. And you can see after I did the dark gray on there, I went in with a really kind of crappy stiff bristle brush with some orange to try to bring in a little bit more of that texture, and it just wasn't quite working. So what I ended up doing was what you're going to see here. So with that white, I actually did a bunch of layers of glazes, and I brought in the red. This is it's actually a 50-50 mix of red and orange, the Bold Pyrrole red and just, orange from Pro Acryl. And after some consecutive glazes, kind of blending those colors together. And then I think I did a little bit of yellow, again, glazing on the very, very kind of inside kind of section of each part of the wing. I don't know what you call that, the wing flap, the loose part of the wing that's in between the kind of more rigid, arms of the wing. Listen, I'm not a biologist. I don't know anything about wings here. So just, consecutive layers of building up that color and getting it to where it needed to be. So this is all the red done, and then I bring in it's the red orange, I guess. And then I bring in just orange. And again, just glazing this on. This is mostly water with a few drops, probably 50-50 mix of paint and the Pro Acryl glaze medium, and then a bunch of water. I do adjust the amount of water based on the color. Some colors need maybe double the amount of paint and glaze medium. So if there's, let's say, 2 drops of paint, 2 drops of glaze medium, I might use 8 drops of water. Others might need maybe twice as much. They might need 16 drops of water, and then some colors might need 4 drops of water. So it just varies, and you kind of have to test it as you go. So again, I'm back to my reference photo here, and I'm trying to build out this kind of grid-like structure. I don't know if it's a grid, but it's these kind of crisscross, crosshatch lines. And so I was looking for something, and I just wasn't able to get the effect that I wanted with just a brush. So I thought I'd try something else. So I grabbed this Q-tip, and with the wooden stick on the end, I put the dark gray paint and basically used that to line out that cross-hatching on the interior sections of the wings. And of course, I did it right off the edge of the camera, so you can't see the first few lines. I'm definitely still getting used to my new camera setup, and so while I do have an external monitor, obviously the camera is up overhead. Figuring out how to do this painting in a way where I can actually show what I'm doing is still definitely a learning process for me. So you can see that kind of crosshatch sort of being built, and as I'm adding these crisscrossing lines, I am just building out that grid, building out that pattern and structure. And really, I only need that to be visible on the kind of edges of each section. And then what I'm going to do after that is go in with thinned out dark gray. And this is the dark neutral gray from Pro Acryl. But I'm going to add that thinned out in the middle on 2 or 3 layers and just kind of darken up the center section. But you can see here I'm using that larger brush for this section. And this is again, a stiff bristled, very poorly maintained brush, and so a lot of the bristles are just kind of all over the place, but that gives me that texture that I want and gives me the look that I want. It's obviously not supposed to be nice, clean, crisp edges. There are definitely times and places for that, but in this scenario, that's not what I want. So even though these brushes, as a matter of fact, I think this brush I'm holding here, about half of the lacquer is missing off of the handle because it has been so abused. It still works fantastically for these types of situations and scenarios. And so you can see that kind of, imperfect edge kind of profile there. And that's exactly what I want. It's so much easier to get this and let the brush apply the randomness as opposed to trying to paint this on by hand and trying to figure out, how do I do this? So I thought I'd try, and again, this is a lot of trial and error. I thought I'd try applying the wash in the center of the wing areas and see how that worked. I don't think it made that big of a difference. I still had to come back over each of these with more layers of this. But I guess it better defines the area that I need to do the cross hatching. So I guess it did give me that just kind of definition of my space that I wanted. So, and this is a learning process, and I'm definitely still learning techniques and what types of methods and tools and setups work for me as an individual. And that's the thing that I think that I've really tried to focus on, has been understanding and trying to learn different techniques and trying to expand my skill set and build my tool set so that I can adapt to different situations, but at the same time, also keeping in mind what works for me, what doesn't work for me. So I'm going to dry brush on some straight up orange on these sections of these, just to bring out a little bit of the texture. There's a lot of texture that's sculpted into these wings. And when you've just got the colors kind of blocked out like this, you lose that depth and that third dimension. So you can see here on the outside, it shows up significantly better. And I actually am going to do a bunch more layers on top of this, but you can see that orange dry brushing does make a big difference. So this is just magenta paint. And actually, in hindsight, I should have done a darker color first in this kind of wash texture. And then I could have, and then I should have done the lighter color over top of it. I think that doing it that way brings out a little bit more depth and brings out a little bit more of the, I don't know, kind of naturalness. But this is essentially joints, and so those are the areas that get a little bit more blood flow, and that's why I added that magenta. And so then here I'm adding this brown wash, and I just add it to the very base, and then I bring it with just a wet brush. So I clean my brush off after I applied the wash, and I'm kind of pulling it out towards the tips. And you can see I'm going to do the same thing here on each of these little talons. Some of them I end up doing the whole chunk of it, but I did end up going, I did go back over each one of these with a wet brush and left most color at the base and pulled the color, off the further towards the tip I got. And I feel like this gave it just a really nice aged, but also like just worn look to it. So you see here, I just did this kind of magenta and purple backwards. It looks really good, but the doing the magenta first and then dry brushing the darker purple on top of it, it doesn't quite give it the feel that I was looking for, because I did it backwards. So applying some silver to all of the metallics, and I actually just use this as a base coat for pretty much everything that is a metallic. So all these little chains and rings, and then all the armor and the chains on the body, as well as all those little connection points that are spread on the front and back of the model. And I think those are where the actual armor pieces kind of socket into on the full model when you've got it fully assembled. But obviously I didn't apply most of the armor to this, to my version of this. So using those as they almost feel like the connection points for the humans in the Matrix to me. And so that's why that's just kind of where I kept going back to. So over the armor that is attached to the back, as well as a few sections on the front, I did apply Pro Acryl dark bronze metallic paint. And I will tell you, one of the things that I have learned as I've worked with more of the Pro Acryl paints, I very much love, and if I were able to get them in every color, I would be using the Vallejo Metal Colors paints for just exclusively. They just work 100% out of the bottle, no issue. But the Pro Acryl paints work really well, but you do have to water them down. You have to thin them. And the metallic medium works well, but it doesn't, for me, doesn't get it to the right texture and consistency. And so I found that I have to thin them with water. But if you thin them too much, then you end up with a lot of pigment separation. And so it's this fine line of how much do I thin this paint? And I live in a dry climate, and so how much to thin it changes. So it's not even something I can consistently, write a note down and say, oh, if I'm using the dark bronze, it's 2-to-1 water to paint. It's not a consistent formula for me. So then I'm doing some dry brushing with the rich gold, and this makes it feel so much more aged, and it to me makes it feel like it has a story. All of this armor, especially this bronzed armor with the gold dry brushing, it just, yeah, this might be my favorite part of this whole model, is how the bronze part of this armor ended up. So I did go through and I used some noosh with a dark purple, because I recognized at this point that my magenta wash with a dark purple dry brushing wasn't quite doing it for me. So I used the Pro Acryl noosh and applied it to the edges of the outside edges of the wings, and a little bit to each one of those kind of knuckles. And then I came through, and so how to explain this? My thought process here was, this model feels like it would have fur. And so I thought, what I can do is I can lay down what looks like fur, and I did that through all these small little lines on here, and then I started laying out washes and basically building up the light and color and depth to the torso. Unfortunately, through all of my layers of washes, you can't see those little fur marks anymore, but live and learn, I guess. So this was my first time ever doing blending like this, and I very much enjoyed it. It was for sure a learning process, and I still have a long way to go, but I am pretty happy with how the overall result came out. So then I'm just adding this, I used bright ivory for the teeth and the nails and the hooves that are on his feet, as well as like the various talons. That was the color that they were base coated on the wings, and you can see them on the tail there, as well as the skulls, and there's a lot. I think in total on this model I ended up using about 30 or 35 different colors. I have quite a few of the Pro Acryl colors, and I used so many of them on this. So back to my old favorite of using the gloss Agrax Earthshade from Citadel, and I used that on the wings there, and then just did a dry brushing. As a little side note before we get to the final here, clean your brushes. I wanted to show you how I clean my brushes, and I wanted to show you how effective it can be. And this was something that was not immediately intuitive to me, and something that I've learned a little bit over time. So I load the brush up with the soap, and then I use the lid as my kind of texture area to work the soap into the bristles and work the paint out of the bristles. And after 2 or 3 rounds, and here I'm just drying it off, and you can see it is clean. So I hope you enjoy. Here's the final model. Let me know what you think of this version, if you like the explanation, or if you like the other version better, and if you like the random thoughts, even more random thoughts that are going to be coming out of my head. You can see the model all put together. This is on the base that I built a few weeks ago. It's certainly not done. There's still a lot more that I would like to do to it, but for the purposes of right now, it is complete, and it's up on the shelf, and I am not going to touch it for a while. So Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic week, or 2 weeks, or however long it takes till I get to post my next video. Let me know in the comments what you thought, and whether you prefer this voiceover or whether you prefer the one in the other video. And I guess that's it. Thanks a lot.